Good evening, everybody. Can everybody hear me? So, just a little bit about me. I own a company called John Rich Media. We're a marketing company. We do a lot of web development. Just the background. Early on in life, hanging with my dad, he worked at the newspaper company. Um, I quickly realized I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So a lot of times I would do paper routes with them to make money. And I remember in Richmond, we go downtown and I always see the big buildings, and I was just like, one day I know I'm going to want to own my own business. I just had to figure out how I'm going to do it. So I got to college, didn't really know what I wanted to do. Got in, said, let me take a finance class. Realized that wasn't for me. Had a bad teacher, had an interest in it, just really didn't work for me. So I took a marketing class and was like, wow, this is great. This is probably what I'm meant to do in life. So I started a little side business. I'm not going to really go into detail about it. Wasn't something that I really am proud about, but it was actually something that taught me a lot about business. I learned about customer service, supply and demand, a lot of things you will learn about a business. And I was doing that while I was taking my marketing classes, and it got so crazy that I almost did not even have time for class. And so one fateful day, I remember I was at school and was kind of sick of it and knew I just shouldn't be doing things like this. I had a really good background. My parents had two-parent home, went to private school most of my life. And, I was just like, this just really isn't for me. So I ended up getting in trouble that day, and I actually got kicked out of the college I went to. And so that was a day I was like, wow, this really got real. And I had nothing in my life. I had no money. I was kind of questioning things that I made in my life. But the one thing I realized, I was like, when I was younger, I realized there was going to be a situation in my life that would occur that would help me to become an adult that I needed to be. And then I realized that that's what it was. And so quickly I, prayed about the situation, and whatever the voice was told me everything was going to resolve itself. So in that series of events, other negative things happened. Like I said, I got put out of one college, but I just said, hey, I saw it coming. Let me go and apply and get into this other one, which I did. That happened. One day my dad and I were riding. This gentleman walked out in front of us with headphones. He hit the guy with the car. The guy flipped in the air and landed right in front of me. And I was just like, wow, this just can't get any worse. He ended up being okay. He had a broken femur. The bad thing about it was my dad was down here from Richmond, didn't tell his company he was using his company car. The situation worked itself out. So with these series of events that occurred, I just was like, it really can't get any worse. I remember I was living off about $50 a month that my grandparents would give me just to kind of get through things. But I said, you know what, I'm going to figure it out. And so everything started clearing up. I went to the new school, so I'm going to put everything into just being the best I could be. I was making a 4.0, I was figuring everything out, graduated from school, top of my class, and I was like, all right, cool, I'm ready for this new start. So it was about 2003 in a recession, pre-recession, better than the one, not as bad as the one in 2008 had occurred. And I remember I was just looking for jobs over and over and over again and could get nothing. So one day I walked over to Portsmouth and I walked in a restaurant and I was like, if they tell me anything, I'm going to work here. So they hired me, and immediately I got there, and I was a server, and I was like so grateful for the opportunity. And so I kind of looked around, was like, I said I want to open my own business. Just instead of looking at this like an employee, why don't I try to look at it from the perspective of the business owner and say, let me treat this as my own business? Because being a server, it really is essentially that. And I quickly realized that I could make more money doing that than I would have ever had I been just an employee. And so, like I said, I would treat everybody, like this is my own business, really honed in on my customer service. And at this point, I was a big introvert. And so this was kind of forcing me to get out of my shell and to talk to people. So then I became a bartender. And that and this other business that I'd had before, I say to this day, were the two greatest lessons I've ever had in business, because as a bartender, you learn about supply and demand, you learn about a marketplace, you learn about customer service, you learn about everything you need to know in a very fast-paced environment, and you have to think on the fly and learn how to solve problems and give customers what they want. And so working at this job for a while, and I knew I wanted to do something more. I had a college degree, and it's like, well, what am I going to do? What do I really want to do? I know I want to have this business. And so the good thing about being a bartender is you meet a variety of people with a variety of different backgrounds. So I would ask people questions. And that's the first thing I learned about business was if I ask you a question, you'd be surprised if you ask somebody, usually they'll tell you how to do it or they'll tell you who you need to know or whatever. And so that quickly started happening. So one buddy of mine and he and I decided we were going to start a music company. So we started it. We would do the typical, making tracks, having people. We created a home studio. And I never wanted to do just the glamorous part. I called it being the ice. Everybody else was the soda. And when you put the two together, you have a nice combination. But if I knew the fundamental things, I would always have value. So that was what I always tried to do. So quickly I realized our stuff didn't sound like other people's. So I said, well, what can I do to have a more professional and leverage my risk or minimize my risk by having an actual skill that I can use in the marketplace? So I ended up going to Norfolk-based, and they had a sound engineering program. I looked, and there was a school called Full Sail, but they were going to charge me like $10,000 a year, and that would have been about 4 years. And I was like, I'm not trying to get more college debt. When I went and talked to people at Norfolk-based, they said, well, we have the exact same thing, but you can do it probably for about $3,000. And so I said, cool. And so I changed my job schedule, took my time, went over there and paid all out of my pocket and got, got the education that I needed. And while there, they were my professors were the best I'd ever seen. They'd given me their cell phone number. They would let me use the studio and almost operated, do side sessions as long as I helped to pay for anything that needed to happen in there. And that also helped me to kind of hone my skills. Problem I started encountering with a lot of people was a lot of people just don't take things as seriously. So I was glad I hedged my risk. So I said, well, this isn't really going to be sustainable. What can I do to make myself more sustainable? Well, I know I like marketing. I had the sound piece, so maybe I should learn video. So one day I'm back at my job, bartending, and I talked to this guy and said, hey, I really need to learn how to add video to what I'm doing. And so he said, I know the perfect guy. He works over here at the school system. So I got his number, called him the next day, said, hey, I don't want any money. I just want to come there. You show me how to do it, and I am good. So I go there day one. He was a nice guy. He would kind of be hard on me, which was good. But told me on day one he liked me. He saw I was trying to work hard. And he said, well, if you can come here, be here about 6 months, probably, and you learn how to do graphics, we could probably find you a job. So I said, cool. All right. So got in, was doing that. There was actually another TV show opportunity that came up that was being taken to Portsmouth for this teen show. And I saw that as another opportunity to go volunteer and learn video and teach some students the audio skills that I had. So I was doing both. And at this point, I was really excited. I was getting hands-on experience. I was using my audio skills. I was learning video. I was helping people. And I was really like, okay, this is moving forward. And in both situations, they would either tell me they would help me on outside projects, or in the situation with the kids show, he would even let me use the equipment and kind of do some side stuff. So I was like, all I need ever is an opportunity. If someone gives me an opportunity, I'm going to make the best out of it and try to achieve whatever goal I have. And so everything was going well, minus the fact that I was getting about 1 hour of sleep a night, because I would go work at the kids show. I would go work at the school system, go work at the kids show, and get about an hour of sleep, do that all week. And on the weekends, I would do the bartending thing. And it was really catching up with me. But it didn't matter, because I was getting the skills that I needed. And I had a side business that was starting to grow. So one fateful day, I was working at school systems about 2008. And they said, we're going to have layoffs. And guess what? You're going to be one of the first people to go. And I was like, man, this is pretty horrible. And so I said, really, I'd gotten hired. I learned the graphic skills. I said, okay, well, I just need to be able to replace that income. And so I ended up getting laid off. And within about a month, with this new time I had, I was able to find the same amount of customers just from using my skills I learned as a bartender, learning what people wanted. I was able to go out there and find customers and replace their income. Also, so that was going well. Everything was going well. I finished school. Like I said, I had this business. It was going pretty well. I did something dumb at the restaurant job, and they had to end up letting me go because it was more so I got in a disagreement with a manager. Now, what Zach's talking about, so at this point, I had none of my jobs, and it was all dependent upon me. But I wasn't scared because I kind of learned, I'm a person that enjoys the risk. I'm a person that enjoys doing things the unconventional way. And this was really what I was supposed to be doing. So about 6 months later, the school system calls me and offers me a job, paying about 60 grand. And I said, I'm going to turn it down because what I got going on here, I might not be making as much yet, but I can see that I'm going to make more. And so about 2 months later, they started hiring my company they became one of my clients. And now they are one of my bigger clients that I have. I do a lot of stuff, and it's Norfolk Public Schools. I do a lot of stuff for them. We got some big news that'll be coming out in a couple months, probably in about a month, for some stuff I've done for them. And, I was able to turn them into a good client. The bar job that I had also came to me. The manager actually called me the next day after my argument with the manager, and they hired my company to do social media for them. And so I always try to find a way to be valuable. I always try to look for just where you add that value in doing things your own way, and just never letting anyone tell you no, because every no just makes you want it that much more. And so now, I've been in business now about 6 years full time. And so it's just a great feeling. I think everyone should try it. Everyone should do it at least once. I think it gives you a better understanding of just how the world works. You see it from, everyone's been an employee probably in their life, and you see that perspective. But once you're a business owner, you really start to understand why managers act the way they do. You understand why your bosses act the way you do. And you start to just have a greater appreciation for things. And so, now I wake up every day charged up. Even on my worst days, I can never go back to being an employee, never go back to being in that situation where I was living off $50 a month. Those are the things that keep me motivated to say I always have to keep pushing forward. And every time someone tells me no, that makes me feel like I get a little bit closer to that, and just makes me want to fight and just do better and go further and do more. And so I just would say, you should embrace the no's, you should embrace the fears, and turn those into strengths, because it'll really help you to be, the best person you can be. So that's my story.